It's almost like being alone, almost. Have we had a great day? Did you like that? It's been a fabulous day, and we've got big heavy hitters this afternoon. I'm very excited, and I can't wait to talk to this man. He's a legend, an icon, you name a musical, he's been in it. Please welcome two-time Tony Award winner, Michael Cerveris! And I know you got a resist. Sorry, I'm not gonna do it.
Anything you say.
Sorry, I was gonna say dream role. We were just talking backstage how I was very fortunate to see you in that revival, and it's such with a couple of my friends, with Laura Molina, icon, Patty, hello, and
the tuba.
I mean, right, play the tuba. It's really wild, but you don't have to play an instrument, right?
I play the guitar.
You play the guitar.
But not too much, because,
You're busy.
I'm just busy killing people.
I mean, right, I was like, Sweeney's a little busy.
My hands are
You got things to do. You got things to do. But Sweeney Todd, I've mentioned it, if people were here earlier today, that it's like probably my favorite musical of all time, tied with Little Shop.
Mm-hmm.
So, dark.
Dark, yeah.
Dark.
I'm sensing a pattern.
Dark comedies, maybe. Well, I'm a Scorpio.
Oh, me too.
So were you, I was gonna say, I'm like, so were you. See, it's all my little serial killer notes. Scorpio, intense. What else is it? Deep and intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
I think those.
I'll take that.
I'll take that too. I was like, I feel like those are true of me.
Yeah, I think that's probably true of me too.
Yeah.
Holding grudges, also.
Holding grudges, put that down, write that down there. And I was thinking about Sweeney, and when we were talking about it backstage, I was like, man, that production was, very revolutionary with John Doyle's direction and everybody playing their own instruments and the pouring of blood. It was all, high concept,
Yeah.
fabulous, which revival should be when you really change something.
Right.
And I just want to know, the process of that, of figuring out that that's what he wanted to do. Was it what, the chicken or the egg? What came first, the musical or the instruments?
It was fascinating. He had a company in England near Manchester, outside Manchester, and it was a small company and they wanted to do musicals, but they really didn't have any of the resources to do it. And so he had this idea of, what if I found people who could play the instruments and do, a small scale thing like that. And I can't remember whether Sweeney was the first one that he did that way, or whether he might have done something else first. But anyway, he did this version in that theater, and Steve heard about it and went over to England and saw it and gave his blessings and loved it, and then they decided to bring it to New York. And I wish that we had a documentary film crew in from the first day of rehearsal, because I said a number of times, if we had played one preview and closed, it still would have been the most exciting thing I'd ever been a part of.
Wow.
Sweeney was such a big deal for me because it was the first Broadway show I ever saw. My dad took us when I was little. It was in previews, so we didn't even know what it was yet. And I was telling some people earlier today, our family would listen to the cassette on family trips and stuff, so I had Len Carey's voice in my head so in every nuance memorized. So I was so glad that John's version was so different from the Hal Prince version, which was, every version I saw after the original one was kind of a variation on that thing, because it seemed well, that's how you do it,
Right,
there's a big central thing, and there's a chair on top of the thing, and they slide down.
Slide.
Exactly.
But it's amazing how it was just conceived, and it was just so wildly different.
Yeah, and he had done it with his company in England, but when he came over to the United States, the people that he cast for different roles didn't necessarily play the same instrument that the person had in London, so he had to kind of start from scratch. And I asked him one day, because he never had notes, he never had anything he was referring to, and I said, do you just remember everything that you did? And he said, oh no, I know there are certain pictures that we have to get to, but I don't really know until we start working on it how we're going to get there. And what was really cool, because we were playing instruments and things, you would be told, okay, you need to get to the top of this ladder by the end of this verse. But it was up to you whether you like ran up to the top and then just sat there, or whether you waited till the last minute and then went up, or if you kind of paced yourself along the way. And it was like that with kind of everything. Everything you did was in relation to things that other people, the timing of other people's things. And it would always change a little bit, and we didn't have Alex Gemignani was playing the piano most of the time with his back to us, like he was up at the back wall.
Right.
So we didn't have a conductor to follow, we just had to, it was more like being in a band where you just listen. So between those two things, we were so tied in as an ensemble because you just had to be aware all the time of where people were and what their pace was, and if somebody had had too much coffee,
like, wow, we got to real quick today.
Exactly.
Like, I better hurry and make this cross.
Exactly.
So it would change like based show by show.
Yeah.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
I would love that as an actor.
Yeah.
Personally, be like, oh yeah, get over there, but you can take your time.
Yeah, there's a structure, so you're not just like freestyling all the time. But and then he didn't care if our back was to the audience, and it was lit in such a way that you could be kind of anywhere in the playing space. So when Patty and I were doing, some of the more combative scenes and stuff, it was kind of felt like being in a boxing ring, and it's like you just went where you went that night and sat down or stood up when you did, and he was entirely in favor of that. So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
I wish more directors were like that.
Me too.
Because it feels really collaborative, and it feels very like, oh, I'm not going to intrude on your process. I'm just going to let you know you have to get from A to B, and I want you to take this path, but you can take that path however you want.
Yeah. And then he's also just such a great editor. So that's the other thing. As an actor, you want to feel the way you feel most safe to just try every impulse you have is when you trust that you have a director who won't let you look like an idiot at the end of the day.
Right, you're like, hopefully you're going to tell me if I'm like sharp or I'm flat or I look like an asshole.
Yeah.
Like hopefully you're going to tell me and give me that note so
that was way too much.
Right, like, or not enough, keep pulling.
But he also was able to do it in a way that you didn't feel shut down, because I have had directors where I would try something outrageous just because it was like, I don't know until I try it, I don't know. And pretty much as soon as you do it, you're like, okay, that's not the right idea. But I had this director one time say to me, well, we won't be doing that again, will we? And I was like, no, I don't think I'll be doing anything at all for you.
For you. Name names.
Yeah.
Name them. I'm kidding. Well, I want to get off the topic, because I could talk about Sweeney Todd all day. I could have a whole panel just about Sweeney Todd, because then we could talk about the concert that you and Patty did and George Hearn did. That Pretty Women with you and George Hearn is like one of my favorite things, one of my top YouTube clips, thing that I have, looked up a lot, because George Hearn is very much like my musical theater boyfriend.
Yeah.
I watched.
Good choice.
Good choice, right? I watched that, the Pro Shot, Girl Sing Pro Shot. It's the PBS special with him and Angela, like, a lot.
Yeah.
And that is cemented in my head. And then I got to see you. And that was the first production I ever saw live.
Oh, wow.
Was you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it really set a precedent in my head. Like,
You never forget your first.
that's right. You never forget. What's the phantom? You never forget your first time. But I want to talk about something very. As I look across your entire body of work, which is beautiful and wildly rangy. You're one of the most versatile leading men I think that we've ever had on Broadway, when you think about all the different things that you have done. But I was looking through all of it, and my husband and I were talking about it, and there's like a 60-40, maybe 70-30, that you play a lot of real people. You play a lot of historical figures, and maybe more than fictional characters. And I want to know if that's something necessarily that you seek out, or is it just happenstance that it happens to be that way?
It's really more happenstance, because I never set out to do that, but there was a point where I kind of sort of, picked my head up and looked back and was like, oh wow, partly because when I do roles, especially about historical people, I love to do research, and I
was about
end
to
up
ask
like
about
buying
that.
all these books and stuff. So I think what made me realize it was looking at my bookshelf one day with like big chunk of Juan Perón, a big chunk of John Wilkes Booth, and you know, all this stuff.
You're like, wow, my whole library is all
Yes, this is what I
biographies.
do. Yeah.
But that's, I mean, and so I guess when you go to a character that, and you're doing research for a character that is not a historical figure, do you do the same type of research in different ways?
I do a version of it. Like I'll research the time period that the character lives in, or the place if it's a place that I don't know. I look for grounding, human facts and details that I can kind of include in the thing. It's always a challenge because I remember when we were doing Assassins and I was reading a biography of Booth and realized that he died in the year that he was going to turn 27, but he hadn't actually gotten to 27 yet. He was only 26 when he died. And in the lyric that the balladeer sings, he says, 27 years of age. So I went to Sondheim and said, hey Steve, fun fact, I realized that, did you know? And he was just quiet for a second, and then he said, 27 sings better. Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Yes, it does, Steve. You are right. Well, you've been really fortunate. You've gotten to work with Stephen Sondheim
A ton.
a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
I mean, what a privilege.
Yeah,
Like,
and I got to get stoned with him at his house
I
too.
was gonna ask about did you go to the party? Did he pass you a joint?
Oh, yeah.
My friend was in, I forget which revival, the second revival of Sunday. In June, and she told me about the story of like going to his house and everybody's hanging out and one of like the pool boys, I don't know, went up to her and said something like, gave her a joint and said, make sure Steve gets this. So like, but they were doing that to everyone. So really everybody just was in a line trying to pass their joint to Stephen Sondheim. And I'm like, this is really brilliant. If I was throwing a party, I would do the same thing. I'd be like, hey, make sure Michelle gets this. And then by the end of the night, I'd be like, oh my God, I didn't even have my own joint. Everybody just brought it to me. I see your game, Stephen. I see what's happening. So tell me that story.
Well, because Sweeney was the first Broadway show I'd ever seen, my dad was a huge Sondheim fan and introduced me really to his music. And
he's a musician.
He's a pianist and was head of the piano faculty at
Juilliard.
He studied at Juilliard.
Right.
And then taught at Marshall University in West Virginia, where I grew up, and a bunch of other places, Duke, and a bunch of other places.
And your mother's a dancer?
Yes, they met at Juilliard. She was a modern dancer studying with Graham.
What an artistic, creative
my
family.
sister was in New York City Ballet for 10 years, and my brother's an
My
actor.
God, what's in the water?
I think they tried to send us to good schools so we would like become doctors and lawyers, but it just did not work out that way.
Didn't work out.
But yeah, so Sondheim was just the pinnacle of achievement in our house. And so when I got to actually start to work with him, it was such a thrill. And I remember the first time I was ever in the same space with him, I was doing Tommy, they had auditions for Passion, and the auditions were in the theater where, this can't be right. I was going to say it was in the theater where Kiss the Spider Woman was, but I feel like it was kind of an empty stage, so maybe it wasn't there. Maybe it was like Schubert or someplace near there. But anyway, he was out in the dark with James Lapine, and I was, it was that chorus line experience where you're just alone on the stage at this empty Broadway house, and thank God I couldn't see him because I was nervous enough.
Right, no kidding.
Yeah, but so that was like my first exposure to him at all, and didn't speak to him or anything. And then some years later, I was living in London. They were going to do that Sondheim Summer at the Kennedy Center, the Kennedy Center. And
Just so we're clear.
and I came back. I was doing a TV show there. I had gone there to do Hedwig, and then I stayed and did a TV show that was an American show called, I think it was called The American Embassy. It was called Emma Brody at one point, but anyway. It was going to be a big deal. It was Fox's replacement for Ally McBeal, and it was going to be a big, big thing. And 4 episodes aired, and they canceled it, and that was the end of it. And I was dating a girl in London. I had this whole perfect life there, and suddenly she dumped me. The show wasn't happening, and I crawled back to the States. And they had cast everything that summer except Passion. So I came in and was, an emotional wreck already. But I used it in the audition, and got the job.
And the rest is history. You used your trauma and your audition.
Yes.
Is really the
Got kids. And so that was the first time I really met him, because he was around a lot that summer, and I remember he came in, we were doing a run through, and he was going to come watch it. It was going to be the first time we saw him. And we were waiting, and he was hung up someplace, so we had kind of just gone on an extended break, and I was lying on the prop bed and flipping through the New York Times, and it was like 5 minutes before I realized he was sitting, closer to the front row to me. And then we were and now we're doing the run through.
Like, okay, go now.
Yeah, which was good, because I, would have only embarrassed myself introducing myself.
Right, you're like, I can't do that. I'm usually like not great like that. Like I can talk to anybody.
Right.
But I mean, Stephen Sondheim, I feel like I'd have to have a joint in my hand.
Well, that was always a hard thing, because I was around him so much for so long, and knew him as a friend, and when I flatter myself, as a colleague, and but I couldn't ever entirely get rid of my idol worship of him, and I think that it kind of always made him a little uncomfortable, because he didn't know what to do. And the funny thing is, he was so nervous around people that he really admired too.
Yeah.
And I had somebody, who was close to him say, "Oh, that's how he thinks about you, so that's why it feels weird." And I was like, "No, I think it feels weird because I make it weird."
Because I make it weird. So I think I'm making it weird. Yeah. Not like, Steve, you're not making it weird. Yeah. Like, it's me. Yeah. The problem is me. Hi.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm the problem. It's me.
Yeah.
I also just looked up something really fun, by the way. Are you doing 1776 with your brother?
I am. I'm leaving here tomorrow, flying back to my hometown in West Virginia, where I've been in rehearsals with the community theater group that I did my first things on stage with in West Virginia. In this beautiful theater that's there, the town is Huntington, West Virginia. Mm-hmm. There's an old 1930s old vaudeville house that they've restored completely. It's like a 2,000-seat house.
Oh my God.
Back in the day, it was like the place, and they've restored it, and we're doing the Huntington Symphony Orchestra is playing, wow. And it's just a bunch of local people, some of whom have gone, worked in DC for a while and then came back. But a lot of them are just like, that's like the guy in the fire department, or the baker or whatever.
The math teacher.
Yeah, and
that's really cool.
It is the most wonderful experience, because it's just, having a career in the theater and a professional life in the theater is such a privilege, and I'm sure anybody here would say that. But going back to where you started and where you remember, like, the only reason people are doing this is because they love to do it. There is no, getting your next gig out of this, or, what the reviews are going to be.
Right. You're like, I'll use this as a stepping stone to get my next big break.
Yeah, it's just, and people who are taking time out of their lives with their families and their full-time jobs and everything else to learn lines and learn songs, and, they take it deadly seriously, and it's...
And 1776 is a hard show.
Yeah.
It's a play with music, really.
Yeah, it is.
Monologues.
Very much. Yeah, and also, it's just such a smart show, and man, could not be more appropriate these days. Nope. I was struggling with how to observe the 250th anniversary these days, and this feels like the perfect thing to do. Like, go into your community, be of service to your community, and tell the accurate story of the founding of the country. country.
I love that. I wish we could all go. Send me the bootleg. Send me the bootleg. And that's amazing. Like, you have a crazy family. That's all. Your brother's an actor. Your sister's a dancer. Your mother was a dancer. Your father's pianist. That, I mean, just to come from such a creative household seems like not only unheard of, but like really fortunate and lucky for you guys. Because not only were you creative, they really nurtured your talent.
They did, although it also came with a real understanding and respect for how hard it is. And they both chose, while in school, not to pursue performing careers. You know, classical music is such a hard thing. And my mom, you know, as much as she loved dance, she didn't really want to do it. It was kind of a way out of her small town in Massachusetts as much as anything else. So I grew up doing theater, and you know, I said to my parents, if you didn't want us to go into this, you shouldn't have driven us to so many rehearsals sometimes.
Should have made it a little harder.
Should have made it a little tougher.
For me.
But so I was doing that all the time. It was a natural part of my growing up. But when I came time to pick colleges or apply to colleges, I applied to 7 different places, and some places like Carnegie Mellon and like, you know, conservatory programs, but also a bunch of liberal arts schools that had good theater programs. And in the end, I was lucky and had a choice of places, and I chose specifically to go to a place where I would walk out with a really solid education, because I wasn't positive that this was what I was going to try to do for a career, or that I, you know, would have a chance to. I struggled for the longest time, even after, like, you know, doing Tommy and getting prizes later. I still would struggle when, anytime you had, in a way it's even true now, if you have to fill out something and you have to put occupation, I'm like, well, I mean, I guess I'm an actor.
It's really funny because I relate. Sometimes you look at it and you're like, well, what do I say? Do I say bartender?
Yes.
Do I say actor? Because today I'm a bartender. Yesterday I was an actor. So, you know, what do you say? But that's so funny to think, like, especially after Tommy, which was such a hit, and the Tony, like, it was like, and how it just exploded and made musical theater very different, and it changed the course of how people write musicals now.
Yeah.
When you think about how much pop and rock has become what musical theater really is now. Like, Tommy was really in the forefront of that. So even after that, you're still like, am I an actor? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just our brains, huh?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why we're so wired that
Well,
way.
and it's, you know, it's part of that imposter syndrome
Sure.
that, you know, most actors I respect also feel.
Feel that way.
Yeah.
Never feel settled.
Yeah.
Maybe we're not supposed to.
No, I mean, there is part of me that thinks that slight unease is the thing that keeps the fire going when everything else is trying to put it out.
Yes, I think that's right.
Yeah.
You know, I found a picture of just like a bunch of CDs that my friend had taken, and we were looking through a bunch of them, and there was a CD that was like a special demo of the 9 Lives.
Oh, yeah.
9 Lives musical?
Uh-huh.
And I looked that up, and I kept saying to my husband, I was like, why do I know what that is, and why am I connecting it to you? But it's because you were you in it, you wrote it?
No, I was in it.
You were in it.
Yeah.
But it was about New Orleans, right?
Yes, it's based on a book by a guy named Dan Baum, and it's follows these 9 real people in New Orleans, and it kind of
Real people.
flashes back, real people, flashes back from kind of the late 50s to just after Katrina, and a songwriter, terrific songwriter named Paul Sanchez, with a partner named Coleman McKay, wrote this song cycle based on the book, and so I had just come down to New Orleans. I'd done a movie there. I worked with Paul's wife, who was in the art department, and she said, "Oh, you should go down and see my husband play. He plays down at the French Quarter." And He always loves bringing people up on stage, and I'm like, I don't really, I'm not a jam kind of guy, I never know those songs. And she said, oh, go, you'll have a good time. So I went, and he brought me up and gave me my first New Orleans appearance. And so we got to be friends, and then at some point, he said, I want to talk to you about this thing I'm working on. There's a character that I think you would be great as. I just don't know how you would feel about it exactly. The character is a woman named Joanne Guidos, who has a place called Cajun's Pub. That's a karaoke place. And Joanne is like 6'8", tall, kind of truck driver build, transvestite woman. And I just don't know how you would feel about playing that. And I was like, well, clearly you're not familiar with my work.
It's like, clearly you don't know me. Oh, my body of work. I love that. I'm gonna go find it. I found a link to watch it.
Yeah, it's a terrific thing. He asked me to help him try to get it, turned into a stage production. And I introduced him to Oscar Eustis at the Public Theater, and we were sort of trying to do things for a while, and it just, fell apart for one reason or another, and as these things do, and it taught me mostly that I do not want to be a producer. I don't really know how to be a producer, and I don't think I want to learn. But man, it's hard.
It's hard. It's so hard. Well, it's funny, this morning I was talking with Jordan Fisher, and he was talking about how he is a producer, and is producing for musicals that are coming up in the fall, and I was like, you're a businesswoman. How did you do this? And his mom apparently instilled in him very early, and she's a really smart businesswoman, and just taught him that he needed to know what his contract said, know how to read a contract, know how to do this, so that you can't be taken advantage of. And so he's like, I'm constantly telling actors, if they want to get involved, or they want to figure out how to do it, call me. I'll help them. So maybe we'll call Jordan Fisher. And he'll produce. He'll produce 9 Lives.
Part of it is that amazing thing, John Cameron Mitchell and I were good friends for years. We would see each other when we were both on the audition circuit and stuff. And we were actually both in a workshop for what became We Will Rock You, but it was a musical at that time it was more of a biopic kind of thing about Queen. And John and I were 2 of the guys in the band. And we were the bad kids in the back of class, always
passing notes.
If you have to teach us Bohemian Rhapsody, you should not be here.
Right. I was if we have a music rehearsal for Bohemian Rhapsody, then I think maybe this isn't for us.
But John was he said on a lunch break, he said, come over to this theater where I'm going to be doing Hedwig. And I was like, Hedwig, what's that? I was like, oh,
what's that? Teach me.
And he had a notebook, and he was like, do you think we should call it a drag glam rock musical, or a punk drag glam rock musical, and I was like, I don't even know what it is.
I don't know why you're asking me, because I have no idea.
And it all seemed, kind of impossible. And then I went to see it, and on Valentine's Day, maybe a month after it opened, and then went back another 5 times, because it was just the ideal thing for rock and roll guy, me. And but I still admire him so much, and everybody who creates their own thing and who teaches themselves how to produce things and make those things happen. And I realized that until it is something, it's just somebody's idea of what it could be, and the whole real skill of producing is just convincing other people to believe in this thing that you believe in. And I think that's where I just fail, because I just feel I don't really know if this could really happen or not, and it's not really anything right now except this thing in my head.
Right, but
then it turns out not to be a good sales pitch.
Well, we'll talk
to Jordan.
I was like, we'll talk to Jordan Fisher. He'll sell this musical. But how do because you're TV, Gilded Age, doing all the fun stuff. How do we get you back to Broadway? If you look at your body of work, it feels like, what haven't you done that you would want to do?
Well, first of all somebody has to do is call. schedule's very open right now. I've never been good with the, what's your dream role, what's your dream project kind of thing. I think because so much of what excites me about something is the people who are going to be in it, or the director that I've never worked with, or the theater that I've never, been a part of. And I think, I sometimes feel like a dinosaur. I got in on the tail end of, the Sondheim age. But I've done stuff like Tommy and Fun Home that, looked like it was opening a whole new world of stuff that kind of came crashing down all of a sudden. But I think, the fact that I haven't, I did Tammy Faye last, 2 years ago, which was a somewhat traumatic experience. I don't know, did anybody here see it?
I did.
I was going to say, Red, it's up.
I loved it. I think it was in way too big a theater. I think Elton really wanted it to be there because it was the Aida Theater, and I think they kind of thought, all you need to do is say that it's Elton and people will come, and
people will be there.
That's not how it happened. But I think, and also we opened the week after the election telling the story of, evangelical preachers, and people they couldn't even get their heads around, like, this might actually be a healing thing to go see.
Right.
And that's telling the story of a woman who was in that world and for all her faults was still really doing something extraordinary. And, I've been in shows that closed early, surprisingly, but this just really felt like the rug being pulled out.
Yeah.
And I can't believe that we never did a cast album.
It makes me so mad.
Yeah.
It makes me furious.
So there's sort of no way for people to even hear what it was if they didn't hear it. I think it will resurface, probably more likely in London. I think Rupert will do it again.
Do it again. Well, right, because over there, wasn't it in like a very small theater? It was like
tiny.
Very tiny.
Yeah, and it was never in the West End.
Right, so it was like whatever the off West End is.
Yeah.
I don't know what they call that.
The Thames.
The Thames, okay. I'm sure
yeah.
Okay, great. We're good. So if you want to ask questions, you want to line up at the microphone over there, we're going to do that. But I wanted to ask you my fun questions that I've created, like on the Colbert show, he does like the Colbert questionnaire. I've created the Dr. Dowdy deep dive. And these are supposed to be like, quick, just don't think about it too much, and keep it fun, you don't have to think about it too hard. Broadway, Mount Rushmore. Who's on it?
Should it be performers or anything?
It could be either. People have taken it in any different way you want.
Part of me just wants to say 4 Stephen Sondheims.
I'll accept that answer.
We'll do that.
I was like, I'll accept it. Coffee, energy drink, or tea?
I have become lately a matcha person, and I think I'm all the better for it, but I still love good coffee.
Which wild party?
Ooh. I think Lipa.
It's funny, we've had like several people like say Lipa and then be like, I'm sorry. And I go, what are you apologizing for? I'm like, this is your choice. Your favorite villain of all time. Doesn't have to be theater.
That I've played, or
no,
just
villain? Any that you love.
The child catcher.
The Chitty Yes! What a great answer! Oh, I love that very much. Your favorite Mama Rose?
I can't, because I'll just offend one of the
Everyone
people.
says that. They're like, it's so hard. I'm like, you gotta choose one.
Who would I want to do that hasn't done it? Can we come back to that?
Yeah, we can come back to that. If you could take a time machine and go back, what Broadway show would you see?
I would see like those like foundational, like, Carousel, Oklahoma, like the original.
The original.
Yeah, and see how how those were received. You know?
That's great. I would love to see that too. All right, your favorite bop from a flop?
Well, from Tammy Faye.
I was going to say, what was the song? God, I had to sing it for the audition. The Jesus. There's like a fun bop. He could get it, or Jesus.
Yeah,
it's like wildly kind of sexually.
Yeah. Inappropriately
Christian. Yes,
yeah.
inappropriately Christian.
Which could be Boral's biography.
Yes. Describe your perfect day off.
Taking walks with my dog, Evie Evangeline.
What kind of dog?
She's a rescue. She's mostly Brittany Spaniel, apparently. And and I didn't bring her out with me for this. She usually goes everywhere with me, but she's hanging back in West Virginia because she really likes it there. But yeah, she comes to every backstage and I got her while I was doing Fun Home, and so she was raised backstage.
Right, it was like she was raised in the theater,
Yeah.
child in the theater. What was or is your go-to audition song? If someone said, oh, you gotta pull something out of your book, what is it?
Well, I mean, it's been Finishing the Hat for so long.
Oh, right, that's right, last night.
It was literally like...
That was so beautiful last night. I was a mess.
Well, it's funny because I was sitting there thinking, oh man, everybody's doing these just singing their faces off and doing these huge, beautiful, exciting things, and I'm just going to do this art piece in the middle of it all. But
no, it was thrilling. It was thrilling. We were very fortunate. We were all really lucky to be here that we could see that.
It was so cool. The whole night was so cool because it was such a reminder of what the scope of musical theater is and all the different things that it is. And this was only a piece of it. But,
right, but it was wonderful.
And then it's, brings so many people together to enjoy all of it. It's a wonderful thing.
It was really good. Oh, what's your favorite or most memorable on-stage mishap?
When we were doing Tommy, I did a lot of flying in that, and on what we used to call the Gypsy Run, it was the run that you would do the day before your first audience. And
the invited dress.
Yeah, the invited dress, and everybody else in every other show would be invited because they probably weren't going to get a chance to see it for a while. So it was an audience full of all of your peers and people that I had just become a peer with by being about to make my Broadway debut. And so I was supposed to come somersaulting down from the rafters, and I got stuck on a light. One of the wires got stuck on the light, and I just stopped mid-flight, and just stayed in. The orchestra kept playing for a while, hoping that something was going to happen.
Somebody was going to get you off
and
that
eventually they just kind of stopped, and everything came to a stop, and the stage manager came on the god mic and said, ladies and gentlemen, we have a slight technical problem. But they couldn't get me down either. So I was just, and as they tried to fix it, all they did was just turn me around. So I was just hanging with my ass facing all of Broadway, just hanging there like a meat puppet.
Oh my God. How long did it take to get you down?
I felt like, a week. It was probably like 90 seconds, 2 minutes or something. They eventually brought the curtain down and brought a huge ladder out and came up and unhooked me and got me down.
Oh my God. No, wait, you were upside, you weren't upside down.
I wasn't upside down,
okay.
no.
So that'd be like a lot of blood to your head.
Yeah.
You gotta be worried more.
Yeah, but auspicious beginning.
Yes. Have you heard of the Muppet theory?
No.
Okay, so everybody has a Muppet inside them, and it's either a chaos Muppet or an order Muppet. And I'm a chaos Muppet, and it's Miss Piggy. It's very much me. But who would your Muppet be, you think?
I think I would appear to be Beaker, but I'm actually Rolf.
I like that answer. I love that. That's a great Rolf. I was gonna say, you're a Rolf too.
Yeah.
You're a Rolf too.
I'm a Rolf for the Janus Rising.
That's right. I like that. Rolf and Janice Rising. Your favorite Sondheim lyric?
God, that is really hard.
Yeah.
No one is alone.
I love, yes, that's good. That's good. That's good. Well, let's get some questions for you before I don't want anybody to feel like they don't get their questions asked.
Hi, I'm Ace. So Assassins is my favorite show of all time, and because of that, I also do a lot of research into the actual history of them all. So I was wondering if during your research for the part, there was any one fact that you really tried to use and keep in mind and embody while you were on stage doing the part.
That's a great question.
Great question.
Yeah, I found this fascinating book that you may have read. It's letters from John Wilkes Booth, and it has a lot of letters that he wrote to a woman that he was, I think, engaged to or dating anyway. And then other letters that are like letters to theater managers and things about details of performances that was really interesting, just about the way actors work, because you would be playing Hamlet and you would go to Cincinnati and everybody else will have rehearsed a Hamlet, and then you show up, do a run through that afternoon, and then do Hamlet with people that you never met before. It's it's kind of being in the opera, I think.
Right, that's very much like being in the opera. They just know the aria and they know the parts, so you're like, oh, I just gotta go do it, but someone else down.
And they're also like, and I'll stand here, and then you do whatever you do back there. But,
You have to park the car right here and do that.
but the fascinating thing, and the thing that I really held to, was that he really believed, mistakenly as it was, that he was doing the right thing and that he was going to be celebrated as a hero, because at the time, Lincoln was as divisive and unpopular a figure as some other presidents we know. And, and then he really thought that he was going to be celebrated as a hero, and really believed that he was saving the country and doing it for the country. And that's the interesting thing about playing as many, dark villain kind of characters. None of us thinks that we're the villain. We're the hero in our story, and we think that. And so my job as an actor is to defend that character's point of view on themselves, and then the play makes the ultimate judgment on the character and the audience. So finding that and finding it helped me be able to sing, the country is not what it was, in a way that felt like very positive. It's just really misguided, but so that was what I took from that.
Great question, thank you.
Hi there. Don't want to gush. Huge fan. Been following your career for a long time. I want to be you when I grow up. You've already talked.
You'll have to not grow up to be you.
We've already hit all the Sweeney talk. My kid just asked you about Assassins. So since the comic and fantasy and theater nerds were talking about the Venn diagram coming together, talk to us a little bit about the experience of Pig.
So I played Professor Pig on Gotham, and it was exciting for me because it meant that I now have a foot in the Marvel universe and the DC universe, and the indie universe with the Tick. I think part of the reason I got to do it was I had worked with Danny Cannon, who was the director and had kind of been shepherding that series from its beginning. And I had done Danny's student film years and years ago, so when they knew Professor Pig was coming up, I auditioned for a different character earlier in the season, and he called me after and said, would you want to wait for, 6 months, because we're going to bring this character in that I think you'd be really perfect for. I was like, sure, whatever you think. And then when I got the script for the episode where he sings, he had it coming, that dance sequence, oh, I know why you wanted me to be.
Oh, I see your plan now, why you wanted me.
But it was so fun, because it was just, that show in the first place it was made by people who really loved the comics so much and really loved the world, and every department was just outdoing themselves. It was like doing a film every week. And there was Professor Pig, when he goes into Arkham, into the prison, and everybody gets the, you know, the black and white jumpsuit thing, but they all have some little thing that's their character's thing. And they were like, I think, you know, Pig will have a bow tie, but they thought, well, what would he be able to make a bow tie out of? Oh, newspaper. So they made it out of newspaper, but they even folded it and tied it in such a way that the newsprint that happened to end up in the buckle part of it, the knot part of it, said "kill" in the middle of it, which you would only know if you got to see it this close and put it on. But it was like that kind of, that level of attention to detail. And, you know, and I got to play 5 different characters every week because he was a master of disguises, and it was just so much fun to get to do such a theatrical, out there, crazy thing in the context of TV, which is not usually what you get to do. And, you know, and working with Robin and everybody was just so, it was really fun. I kept saying to them, you know, just because I got shot in the face doesn't mean that I died. Because they can always take you to that pool and like bring you back.
Exactly. I was like, especially on a comic book or like anything like that. Like, come on, I'm not really dead.
Yeah.
You'll come up with something about it. Like, bring me back, bring me back.
I made the same argument to Gilded Age, and it hasn't worked yet.
I know. I'm also going to write them a strongly worded letter too, and also that they make me wait too long and they need to bring you back. That many things.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your question. That was so great.
Thanks.
This has been so lovely. You're just a dream to talk to, and like we could literally just be doing this for hours and hours.
We probably will be later.
We probably will be later. But everyone, please make so much noise and a lot of your love to Michael Cerveris.